Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate the setup and configuration of OpenDNS Family Shield. Um, the first thing that we're going to want to do is go to opendns.com, and then we're going to click on Personal. We're going to scroll down and find the Family Shield uh, setup guide button here. As it says, it's pre-configured to block adult content. Set it and forget it. So this is by far the simplest way to go. No configuration necessary once you get this set up on your router. So we'll click Setup Guide. And we just need to go down here. It says choose your device. And we're going to hit Home Routers. The reason why you want to set this up on your router is so that all devices that connect to the internet through your wireless router are automatically protected. It doesn't matter if it's a device that is native to your home or if it's a foreign device that is brought in by a family member or friend. As soon as it connects to your wireless network, it will be protected by OpenDNS Family Shield. So now we're on the router configuration page. We need to have an idea of what kind of router we have. So you'll need to go and actually physically look at your router and find out the make and model number. Um, I have a D-Link brand, so that's the make, D-Link. And so I got to find D-Link in here. And then once I click into D-Link, now I got to find my model. Now they don't have every single router in here, just the most common ones. I actually have a DIR 600, which isn't in here, but after looking through these, I found that the 615 is pretty much the same. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one. So if you don't find yours, if you don't find the exact one, look for one that's just close, a close model number, and most likely the configuration will be either exactly the same or just slightly different. So now I want to give a brief overview of what exactly we're doing here. Your main goal in configuring your router is going to be setting the DNS address. The DNS address is basically a server on the internet that tells your computer where websites actually exist. It's kind of like a phone book, where you have phone numbers that link up to addresses. So in this way, we've got IP addresses that link up to domain names. So for instance, 8.8.8.8 is Google DNS server, which does not offer any sort of content filtering. It's just wide open. So we're not going to use Google. We're going to use the OpenDNS DNS servers, and you'll see what the address to that server is here in a bit. So that is our top goal here. That's our really our only goal in configuring the router is to manually change the DNS server that the router connects to look up websites. We want to change that to OpenDNS. So this is going to give us, it's pretty much for every router, it's about a 4-step process. And I'll just briefly explain what those steps are going to be before we do it. So step 1, it says visit the router's IP address in a new browser window. So in this case, the default IP address of my D-Link router is this right here, 192.168.0.1. So it just wants me to right click and open that in a new tab, which I'll do in a minute, but I want to finish going through the steps here. After we open up the router's configuration page by going to the IP address here. We're going to log in. It just wants you to enter the password, the username, and the password. And then step 3, in this case, it says click on the manual internet connection setup button. But basically what step 3 is saying is find the DNS settings. Wherever you are in your router, you need to find the DNS settings, because remember, that is our goal, is to set the DNS server to OpenDNS. So that's basically what 3 is saying. Find your DNS setting. And then number 4 is enter the OpenDNS addresses in the primary DNS and secondary DNS server fields. There's 2 DNS servers. The point of that is if one of the servers are down, then it'll basically fail over to the second DNS server, and you're still able to use the internet and look up websites just as normal, even though maybe the first one went down. So that is the process. It's a 4-step process. Then at the bottom, it's going to tell you, click save. You want to make sure you save the settings, and then it gives you a link at the bottom here to test your new settings. So we haven't actually done anything yet. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're about to do. So now we're going to go ahead and do it. So I'm going to right click, and I'm just going to open this in a new tab, just so we don't lose our tab that we're working in here. I'll switch over to that tab. This is the login page for my router. I'm not on a website. This is connecting to the router that is in my home. You can see up here that is the address of the router, 192.168.0.1. So the default username and password for this particular router is admin for the username and password for the password. Whatever page, whatever configuration page you find for your router back on OpenDNS website, it will tell you what the default username and password is for your router. So you'll just have to find that on the page. Sometimes it's admin, like this one is admin password. Sometimes the password is just blank. Usually the username is admin, though, almost always. So we've got that entered in. I'm going to hit login. Now, all I need to do here, since I've done this a few times, I already know what I'm doing, and there's really no settings here to speak of. And what I do know that I'm doing is I'm trying to set this setting manually. I'm trying to change it manually. I'm not doing any sort of automatic configuration. So if you have anything on your router that says manual configuration or manual setup, then that's probably where you want to go. So I'm going to do that here, manual setup. And so now here I'm finally into my setup page, my configuration for my router. And basically, like I said, we are searching for the DNS settings. For this particular router, if you have a D-Link router, it might be the same as this. I need to go to internet connection, because what we're doing is we're changing a setting that looks out to the internet. It's not a setting that looks into my local home network, devices that are connected within my home. This is a setting that's looking out into the World Wide Web, out into the internet. So it makes sense that it would be under internet connection. So now what I don't want the internet connection setup wizard. That'll just ask me a bunch of questions that I don't need to worry about. So I'm going to do the manual internet connection setup right here. And remember, we're looking for DNS settings. So it looks like they are right here. Just like it said on the OpenDNS webpage, I've got a primary DNS server and I've got a secondary DNS server. So I need to go back to my configuration page for OpenDNS and find the IP address that it wants me to enter there. Now, these are actually these are the OpenDNS DNS servers that does not support Family Shield. Those are used for the standard OpenDNS configuration, which is not what I want to do. So I need to go back to here. This is because this is the Family Shield page. So the Family Shield name servers are right here. 208.67.222.123 and 208.67.220.123. So I need to go ahead and put those in place on my router. So I'll go back to my router. It might let me copy and paste them. Yes, it does. So just copy and paste. Your router might not let you copy and paste, but mine does here. Okay, so now I just need to hit save. It says reboot needed. Your changes have been saved. The router must be rebooted for the changes to take effect. So I'll go ahead and hit reboot so that the changes can take effect. Usually most routers, when you restart them, will take a couple minutes. Probably no more than 2 or 3 minutes on average. So we'll just have to wait until it comes back on. If you can see your router physically from where you're at, you will notice most likely the lights will go out on it for a second and slowly start to come back on. Once all the lights come back on and start blinking as usual, then you are most likely ready to continue. And it looks like mine is pretty sure it's done rebooting now. So back to the configuration page. We've done step 1. That was connecting to the router. Step 2 was logging into the router's configuration. Step 3 was getting to the manual setup to find the DNS settings. And step 4 was entering the OpenDNS addresses. Now step 5, we saved the settings and it's restarted. And now I'm going to hit test your settings and see if we did it. And it looks like it's loading up. It should give me a success message. And it does. It says, welcome to OpenDNS. Your internet is safer, faster, and smarter because you're using OpenDNS. Okay, so now from here, that's good to know that it's saying that it's connected, but if you want to verify that it's actually blocking inappropriate websites, there is a test website that you can go to called internetbadguys.com, which is actually a website that is owned by OpenDNS specifically to test OpenDNS filtering and make sure it's working. So it's not actually an inappropriate website. It's just a website that OpenDNS has so that you can test that OpenDNS is actually blocking pages. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that site. And as you can see, it says this domain is blocked due to a phishing threat. And if I didn't have OpenDNS set up, it would actually pop up and tell you this is an OpenDNS page meant for testing purposes. But since we actually have the OpenDNS filtering in place, it's treating it as though it was actually a website running a scam, which is what a phishing threat is, a scam website. So you could test it against other, bad websites if you wanted to, but that proves that it's working. It's in place. Um, by default, Family Shield blocks all pornography, um, gambling websites, weapons, violence, hate. There's several other categories that are all blocked by default. So this is definitely a good first step in securing your network and making it safer for yourself and for your family and children. Um, so that's basically it. It's a pretty simple process to get going, and as you can see, it works and it's completely free. No sign up needed. No personal information that you're giving away. So that would be the end of the tutorial. Hope that worked out for you guys, and thank you very much.